Hey everyone, I am Christian Witt, and this is Dennis Wenzel. He's one of our volunteer extraordinaires here at Rathbun, and he is the interviewee for my subject matter expert interview. And today we are going to talk about his marketing business a little bit. But first, I just wanted to break the ice, and we're going to ask just a fun question.
Sure.
What's the best restaurant you've been to in the past month?
Probably Buxton Hall. I've become a sucker for barbecue, so I sneak in there with any reason I can get. I think it's a fine meal for $15. You can't beat it.
Absolutely. And I'm going to give you mine too.
Oh.
So I went to a place called Appalachia Kitchen.
Okay.
It was in Snowshoe, West Virginia.
Oh.
We went up there skiing a few weeks ago, and it's like southern gourmet-ish type food.
Okay.
And after a day of skiing, you just like wanted everything. I think I had trout. It was really good.
Wow. That sounds great.
All right, so let's get started with these questions.
Okay.
I hope you don't feel interrogated today. So, Dennis, tell me a little bit about your background and career prior to setting out as an entrepreneur.
I started my career working for advertising agencies. So I lived in Chicago, and so I worked for a large advertising agency. And I worked in the account services department, so our job was to kind of be the liaison between all the different departments. So there was a creative group, production, the media group, strategy, research, and then the client. So we kind of brought all those folks together. You know, our goal essentially was to make the client like us so much that he never wants to leave or she never wants to leave, and that they would outsource as much of their job as possible, so they would have essentially nothing to do and they would never want to leave us. So that was kind of that schmooze, but also making sure that we're delivering a lot of value. After that, I started working for a couple of internet companies. This was kind of in the late 90s, early 2000s. And it was the dot-com, dot-bombs phase of our financial history. Yeah. So I worked with companies there. There was a lot of high energy, a lot of heavy work, a lot of long days. But it was really good. You really learned about how a business worked, how the different pieces worked, and how everything fit together. After that, just to kind of give you a little broader perspective. So I did that for a while, and my wife and I ended up being we were being successful in the way that we had defined success, which was primarily just financially. But we found that we were pretty unhappy people, and so we tried to figure out what we should do. After a couple of pretty heavy conversations, we sold our house, we quit our jobs, we put everything into storage, and we traveled the world for a year. Wow. And we really tried to figure out how we fit in with work and what do we want to get out of work? How do we want to value life? And I think that time that we spent away formulated a lot of kind of how I approach work now in business and figuring those things out.
Really cool. Okay, that must have been exciting to travel the world for a year.
Yeah, it was nice. It was a great experience. It really was.
Nice. So did you always want to start your own business, or did you have kind of like an aha moment that led to that decision?
I think I always kind of had it in the back of my mind. I think I always wanted to, you always think you're smarter than the next guy, So I think when I was young, I had that, that kind of chip on my shoulder that, I feel like I could do this better than them. Yeah. But probably for the first 10, 12 years of my career, I didn't really know enough, I don't think. I didn't have a traditional kind of education, MBA type of education to give me all those pieces. So when I was working for these internet companies, I was working with some folks that had fantastic pedigrees from some very good schools. And so I learned that process, and I was able to learn these pieces. And I think I gained a lot more confidence about those decisions later in my life, once I felt better about maybe taking the plunge of starting my own company.
Yeah, it's got to be a huge plunge.
Yeah.
I'm sure a lot of people in the class are thinking the same thing, how do I just jump right in? So I know you run your own marketing business. Can you give us a little more detail about your business and target market?
So to give you a little bit of background, after we came back from that trip, my wife, she went into working in kind of professional development. She was helping people through their facilitating their careers, kind of trying to strike that work balance or being more productive without being more kind of beaten up by your job. And I came back and I just really wanted to own some type of business. So it just so happened that when I came back, I went to like some like solar energy conferences and wind energy conferences. And I thought I might end up into that space. But I decided, my brother-in-law actually at the time had a towing company, and it just so happened that it was struggling a little bit, and it probably wasn't going to be around too much longer. And so my sister said, "Why don't you two pair up?" And so that's I found myself in the towing world, automotive towing. So I was literally I went from no job to owning a towing company.
Wow.
Partnering with him. Yeah. So it was a big uphill climb with the learning aspect of it. I had no idea what I was doing. I had a lot of the traditional business and marketing, management process type of stuff that I could rely on, but a lot of that from the corporate world doesn't really apply to your little company. So I ran that for a while. We built it up. It became successful. We were very lucky and blessed that it all worked out. Then we sold that, and then I started this company, which is Lift Marketing Group, and we provide marketing services for the towing industry. Towing and auto repair and truck repair and mobile truck repair industry. And so that's what I kind of did, is kind of marrying my first two careers together to create this company.
Cool, very good. All right, so how do you set yourself apart from similar businesses? I mean, that seems kind of like a niche,
Yeah, it's a niche. It is. There's the population is about 40,000 companies in the U.S. and about 3,500 in Canada, and that's kind of our universe that we operate in. So it's a relatively narrow niche, but there's a lot of companies.
Tiny.
Yeah, it's not tiny. So it's I found it through that way, but the way I think that we work to kind of provide value to these folks is the fact that I have some experience in it, and I can genuinely say I understand what their day-to-day is. And I think we can also, we really have an ability to build our products and to build our services based on exactly what they need. A lot of these folks, they had an industry where they may have inherited this business from their father or their grandfather, and half the time they're just scared stiff that they don't want to screw it up, and there's this huge change because pretty much the only marketing spend that a towing company or a local services business ever did was the yellow book, was the phone book, and it was kind of the standard for if you were a plumber or auto repair, anything like that you provided locally. That's how you reached your customers. And so when that shift happened, there was a vacuum, and a lot of people came in providing services in that space. A lot of them were providing services that weren't effective, were extremely expensive, and just didn't do the job. And so I think when we came in, we were able to see that upset market and kind of calm it down with providing very targeted tools and services that really met that demand, but also understood their day-to-day operations, some of their financial constraints, or the ebb and flow of their cash flow kind of thing.
Yeah, sounds like a smart approach to me. So this next question might have an obvious answer, but profits. But how do you evaluate whether your marketing efforts are successful? Are there certain metrics that you use?
What we want to do is make sure that we're delivering value. One of the things that we do is we focus a lot on customer retention. We try to maintain that relationship over a long period of time. And so I feel like if we approach it from an ethical standpoint and we're providing them good quality services, but also making sure that they're getting something that is going to deliver them value over time, we really make it pretty easy for them to maintain a relationship with us. When you're running a small business, there are 50 fires a day. There's always something going on. And if we can put out this one fire for them, or at least this guy knows or this woman knows, this issue is resolved for me. I don't have to worry about that. I don't have to keep my thumb on that every day. I can focus on these other 20 things that are popping up today. That's how we're able to deliver that value. And then when they call us, we're very responsive. We want to be that kind of conduit to them that makes it feel like it's just a very conversational relationship that we have. Yeah. So we try to maintain being accessible. We try to be as small of a business as possible ourselves, because I think that helps us relate more closely with other small businesses.
How many do you have staff?
We have a couple of people on staff, only about 4 people, but we use a lot of contractors. I would say 80%. Probably on a weekly basis, we use about 15 or 20 contractors. That it's they could be locally, they could be overseas, but we use a lot of different contractors to kind of minimize my need to manage those folks. That's one of the things about when I had the towing company. The thing that I liked least about that job was managing people.
Okay.
And so when I built this business, I said, there's 2 things I wanted. I wanted quality of life, so we wanted to be able to travel. And this business is fairly portable; we can move around. But I wanted to, so I wouldn't have any employees. I had to kind of go back on that as the company grew. I had to go back on that a little bit and allow us to bring on staff because it was just a demand that we couldn't handle. But by and large, the way I hire now is a lot of self-starters, a lot of people that can do their own thing because
Right.
I don't enjoy managing people.
I mean, it's kind of amazing how you just sort of knew what you wanted and built your business around, your quality of life. That's
Yeah, I think it's interesting. I don't think I had that perspective when I was 25 or 28 or 30 years old.
Yeah.
And when the last business that I built, I had a different idea. I really wanted to. I was just thinking about kind of the ability to sell it. I wanted to have this short time, get my money in, get my money out, kind of thing. And so I was able to get some perspective and say, maybe I won't make as much money, but that value could be returned to me in the freedom to work from, Asia is a little bit challenging. Overseas is a little bit challenging sometimes because of the timeline, being able to return phone calls to clients. But most of the time now, if I have somebody that's here, I can work from wherever, and it's very rewarding. So there's a lot of value in that. It might not be just having a big stack pile of cash, but my quality of life is way better than it's ever been. So
Yeah, you only get one.
exactly.
You
Yeah.
only get one. You kind of touched on this a little bit, but if you can go a little bit more in depth on this if you'd like. But what is the level of competition in your field, and would you say that you're a competitive person?
We have every business has competition, so we certainly do. I see competition as integral to any business's success, and I think it's really important. I feel that every business, any business needs to evolve. You have to constantly be reinventing yourself, adding new products, maintaining relevance. At some point it was started with a really good idea, and then all this process gets mixed in, and I think sometimes that really good idea gets watered down or loses priority within the organization. And for me, I really focus on, I allow my competitors to be that they're my research and development team, essentially. When I see them mimicking us and using our language in their marketing material, I take it as flattery. That's great. They must really like how we talk about our business because that's the same way they talk about their services. So, and then when I see them offering a product that we don't offer or a service or something, maybe a little bit of a tweak on it, I look at it and try to figure out, is that appropriate for us? Am I missing something here? So from a competition standpoint, I don't really spend a lot of time focused on them other than I look for them to kind of give me feedback about my company, and that's kind of how I see their role in my universe. But I am a competitive person, I would say, too.
Right. Thank you. So, describe your greatest challenge regarding a client or business goal. How did you prevail through that?
I think it's tough. It's tough to be honest, I really don't spend a lot of time focusing on the challenges that we've had. I see adversity as an opportunity to evolve the product. So I'm generally a pretty optimistic person. So I don't know that I really ever spend much energy there. When something goes wrong, we might have bad weekends where everyone has to work. Or I'm, shipping off a ton of work over the internet to my guys because we have to crank something out because something's gone wrong or there's a glitch in our software, something like that. We always have those fire drills, and those are regrettable, but you learn from them. But I think I'm someone I'm not about really making sure that nothing ever goes wrong. I'm just about having the ability to evolve and to make sure that whatever you're doing is pliable enough to adjust to the market, because the market is always moving. All these pieces around, nothing is stagnant, and so everything's moving around you. So I really just try to make sure that we are as pliable and nimble enough to make those adjustments as quickly as possible.
Yeah.
You know, I would imagine if there was one particular instance, it might be we had a situation where there was a glitch in our software, and our customers were receiving other customers' customer data, and that's you know, we're not like in a hospital where it's a HIPAA situation, but it's still not a very good situation when you're getting information from somebody else, because the first thing you think of is someone else is getting my information. So those things happen, but it's a natural process. I think, you know, nothing ever, I think, is perfect all the time. And so it's just about adjusting to that, seeing it as adversity, but also seeing it as surmountable. You can overcome it, you figure it out, dissect it, resolve it, and move on.
Yeah. I think what you said about being pliable is key. You know, you have to have a system that's effective enough to be able to deal with the problems that are thrown at you without letting them completely knock you down. So,
yeah, and sometimes they do knock you down, but you just have to get right back up. You know, yeah, definitely.
All right. Describe a specific time when things didn't turn out how you had hoped, and what did you do? What lessons did you learn?
You know, I think one of the ways that I approach the thought of business is I'm a believer that fear drives a lot of decisions, or a lot of avoidance of decisions. And I think, you know, one of the things that I kind of preach to my team is we do not get hung up in perfectionism. I think that perfectionism is the opposite of productivity. Because if you are waiting for something to be perfect, it's never going to be ready for the market. And also, I think that sometimes when you're waiting for something to be perfect or evolving it more and more and more, it's your own fear that you don't want to be judged based on your product, your work that you're going to put out there. And so I'm a big believer about putting something out there, 2.0, 2.1, and evolve it. You know, make the you know, 2.2, 2.3, make the 3.0. You know, make different iterations or versions over time and make it better. But get it out there and get it working, because that's the greatest feedback. That's the most efficient use of your time, is to have that information going out and then coming back from your customers. You know, it's like, you know, we do software, we do marketing products. So a lot of those things, there's an evolution to them, and so we just want to make sure that we're always kind of churning them around and making them kind of meeting the new demands that our customers might have.
That's great advice. All right. Do you have experience with obtaining startup funding to get an endeavor rolling? And if so, what advice can you give to others for approaching potential investors?
I don't have any firsthand experience in getting funding. I've been involved in businesses, so when I was working for those internet companies, there was a lot of very traditional VC money that came into those businesses, and other than that, you know, I haven't really done any funding of my company. Everything that I've done, I've kind of been able to fund myself. So I have seen where you know, there are concessions that you need to make when you take on someone else's money. You know, one of the things that I've noticed is one of the first questions that they ask you right before they give you the money is how you're going to pay me back. And so they're looking for their return, and I think it's important to consider their priorities and your priorities before you take in that type of impact, because it really can change the focus of your mission or your goals or what you want to accomplish with your business. Sometimes it's necessary. Sometimes you need that speed to market for whatever reason, or maybe you have a perceived speed to market that you have. But I think it's important that you kind of make sure you consider that before taking that stuff on. Plus, there's a lot of great crowdsourcing type of crowdfunding type of sites that are out there where you can use those to drive that influx of cash if you can put together a strong enough pitch.
Okay, cool, very good. What do you see the future of your business looking like?
You know, initially I said I would have no employees, and now I have employees, and so it evolves. It's just the nature of the beast. I could see, you know, I tend to have this kind of 10-year rotation of businesses, and so I'm coming up on 12 years. So I'm not sure. Maybe I'll see one of these employees that can kind of step in, and I can step away a little bit more, and you know, I can move on to the next thing. Who knows? Maybe it's like an eco lodge somewhere up in the mountains, and it's you know, off the grid or something. Who knows? But I'm open to. I just like ideas. I like the building idea part. I like the figuring it out. Cracking the eggs. Once it's up and running, it's less interesting to me, I think.
Okay. All right. Well, Dennis, I appreciate your time today.
My pleasure.
I'm sure that everyone in the class will have gained some really useful information. And if there's ever anything that I can do to help you, let me know. And also, I just wanted to say we are so lucky to have you here at Rathbun.
Oh, thanks.
So, appreciate
Likewise.
it.
Appreciate it. My pleasure.
All right. That wraps it up, guys.